I've been thinking a lot this week about our practices, the things we teach here, how we apply them to our daily lives. I usually get up here and just talk about one, but it occurred to me that what I wanted to do this week was really talk about how they work together. You know, how these different practices work together to create the life that we're dreaming of. Because that's why you're here, right? You know, to grow your consciousness to a place where you get to have the life of your dreams. And so, the first step is intention. And the thing about intention is that you're always doing it. There's always an intention there. The only difference is whether it's conscious or unconscious. You got an intention going on. The question is are you conscious of it? Did you make that intention consciously, number one? And number two, are you conscious of that intention you made as you were walking through your day? Right? Back in January, we did an exercise where we brought forth what it was that was ours to do for this year. We set intentions, right? Not resolutions, intentions. And so, but then, did we just leave it there? Did we leave it on the table back in January when we did it? Or are you spending time each day reminding yourself, this was my intention for this year? Because that's step number one. Step number one is to keep your intention forward and conscious. And I've been thinking, and so one of the things that occurred to me this week was about be here now as an intention. And I was thinking about that, and it reminded me of when I was playing softball. I played hardball in high school and before that, and then as I got older, I moved to softball, and I was pretty good, and so I was in the outfield, right? And like anybody who plays the outfield, all the game is happening up there in the infield mostly, and you're just sitting back there and kind of spacing out and not really being here now. And then all of a sudden there's the crack of the bat. And you get really present when that crack of the bat occurs, right? And what I remembered is how I was really present. And yet, as I'm standing there watching that ball, I misjudged it. It was way further back than I thought it was going to be. So I'm being here now, and now I'm running like crazy to catch up where the ball was. And then I got back there to where I figured it was coming down, and I looked up, and the sun was right there in my eyes, and I missed it. Luckily, it didn't bonk me on the head. I mean, it just missed me. It was right in the sun. And that got me thinking about how we're always saying turn towards the light. Well, there was the light, and it was a really bad idea. And so intention, right? It's not just about being here now. It's about what are we doing with being here now? What's our intention? And then even in intention, are we focused on the generics of turn to the light? That can be very blinding for what we really want to create. And so I was looking at that and I'm thinking, wow, we really need to be so intentional here in what we're thinking about and what we're looking at. And so what I learned from that is I needed a bigger hat, right? And sunglasses and whatever it was I needed to do, to learn how to have my glove up so it was blocking the sun and I could actually see the ball. And all these things occurred to me through my intention of catching the ball. That was my intention there, was to catch the ball, right? I'm in the outfield. That's what they're expecting of me. If there's a fly ball, that I catch it. And so, are we looking at our intentions from that kind of place? Or are we getting distracted and lost in all the things that go on in life that can so easily be distracting? Like the sun in your eyes, right? Or the shiny thing. I mean, I'm really good at getting distracted by shiny things. Oh, look at the shiny thing. What was I saying? Squirrel, right. Squirrel. My dog is a really smart dog and obeys 75% of the time. The other 25%, he's distracted, right? Squirrel, shiny thing, somebody walking past in front of the house, whatever it is, right? But we're that way too. And do you notice that? Are you noticing that in this practice? Step 1, intention. Step 2, holding that intention, keeping it present for you. And so one of the ways in which we keep our intention present for us is we create affirmations, right? Spiritual mind treatment is all about affirming what it is we want to create in the world as if it's already so, as if it's done. Because we believe that time is not a continuum, and so everything already exists, and all we got to do is hold this vision of what it is we want, and it will bring forth those steps we need to take so that it shows up in our lives. But we get distracted. We even get distracted with the affirmations. So, but how many of you actually have an affirmation that's based on your intention that you said at the beginning of the year? Raise your hand if you got one. That's not a lot of you. That's what we teach here. It's an important piece to keep the intention forward so that every day you're saying this affirmation, reminding you of the intention that you set, that you said you wanted, right? Bringing it forth so you don't get distracted, so there's not too many squirrels pulling you off. Because if you don't have that affirmation, if you don't have that intention, if you don't have that focus going that way, it is really easy in life to be here now and be all over the place. Or am I the only one? You know? So that's important in this teaching, what we're trying to teach here and how we use these practices. This is why it's good to be in class, because you're constantly reminded, oh yeah, first is intention, then have an affirmation, right? And keep that affirmation forward. Spiritual mind treatment. Keep that affirmation forward in front of you. Okay, so now let's say you're doing that. Let's say you actually do have an affirmation that backs up your intention. And you're repeating it every day. The next thing that comes along is decisions. Because every moment you're making a decision on to stay on course to your intention or not. Right? You have an intention at the beginning of the year to be healthy, and the decision you're making is to go get ice cream. Or am I the only one? Yes, I am. And so that's step number 3. You know, and there's nothing wrong. Listen, I am not making ice cream wrong, just so we're clear. I'm just saying awareness is consciousness. It brings us forth. I notice that the more I keep forth my intention, my affirmations, the better shot I have of staying on course. That doesn't mean I like my shiny things, just so we're clear. I like my shiny things, and I'll go and I'll do this and I'll do that. But doing it in awareness, doing it with a focus of attention where we can say, okay, this is my choice right now. This is my decision at this moment. And I know that I'm going to get back on course because that's what I'm holding clear in my head. And it really allows for a wide range of life, which is part of what we want anyway, right? I mean, you know, I consider myself one of the most undisciplined people on the planet. Really, I don't follow any disciplines at all, but I am really good at habits and getting and motivation, right? I am very, very motivated to, for instance, get up here and give you guys a decent talk on Sundays. To be the best I can be, I am very motivated to be the best I can be for you. you know. Thank you. But my reason for bringing it up isn't to get the applause. It's to let you know that discipline can really, hinder spark. And I'm not saying be undisciplined, but I am saying look for motivation. Look for really moves you forward. Look, have an intention and an affirmation that really sparks you, that gets you going, that is what you want to do, right? And it doesn't have to be one you made up yourself. Mine is actually from a guy named Gay Hendricks. I have it on my computer screen. It says, I expand every day in health, love, abundance, and success, and inspire those around me to do the same. I read that every day. More than once a day, really, because it's right there on the screen, so why not? And so that's mine. And so that's my intention. That's my intention, to be inspiring, to live in that expansion and then be inspiring. And I keep that front and center and still give myself plenty of space to do whatever. But always come back, because this is what's really important. And that's what I recommend. I recommend doing that, having that intention, that idea of what it is you want to be front and center. This week, I complained a lot about a lot of different things. And I am very lucky that I live with a woman who will say to me, so what's your intention? You know how annoying that is? But that's clearly what I signed up for. And so I got to go, what's my intention? Okay, and get back on course. And that's another beauty of classes, and to be in a community where you have people around you who can just simply remind you. She's very gentle about it. She just simply says, so what's your intention? Bringing me back to what's my intention. And so so it's an everyday thing. This isn't something you get to do once a week, right? I'll look at my affirmation once a week. I got to look at mine like 10 times, 20, 30 times a day, because my mind wanders. Squirrely, all that. Life can get pretty squirrely. Maybe only mine. So we bring back our attention. And then the next piece is soften and be curious. Right? Because when we're in our intention, we don't really know. Our ego minds don't always know, or rarely know, what's our best next step. We can logically think about it. We could come up with, well, this sounds like a good idea. But if we stay softened and be curious, right? Intention, affirmation, soften and be curious. Because it is in that softening and the curiosity that really allows for something new to arise. This is the real key to this whole thing, is it's not just about the affirmation. Then you got to take the next step. Soften and be curious. Don't be so sure that you know what's next. I have a habit of being sure I know what's next. And luckily I have this wife who reminds me, didn't you say something about being softened and being curious? There's nothing like having your words thrown back at you, But it works, right? I got to go, right. I'm being a little stiff here around this. I'm so sure I'm right. And so I got to soften up. And then I got to listen. Because if you're going to be curious, you got to listen to others to whatever's going on. If you're really going to be curious, you got to listen with a mindset of not getting ready for what you're going to say next. Right? You're not listening to say what you're going to say. You're listening, to be curious, because there's something in there. There's something in there. Because you have set the intention of it. That's the thing about it, right? If you set your intention and you're clear on where you're headed, then by being curious, you will find what it is, the gem that's in what's being said that you would have missed completely if you were sure you were right. And so that's the piece of it. How do we get in there? How do we get to that place of curiosity? By remembering our intention and maybe repeating our affirmation to remind us. And so we get to that place of being curious. Then something pops up that we never thought of before, that we had no idea that this would be our next step. Now you got to be courageous. Because I don't know about you, but a lot of times that next step makes no logical sense to me at all. And so my logic is now going crazy, that's crazy. You can't do that. That won't work. You can't, that doesn't make any sense. And then I got to be willing to sit in that place of courage to go, if this is what popped up, is that me? Who else? I got to be willing to sit in that place of this must be what's next, and I got to have the courage to take that step. And man, that's not so easy because there's a trust in life that goes with that. Courage requires a level of trust that most of us don't walk around with most of the time. If you're one of the people who actually does, congratulations, because that would be my next step, is to walk around with that level of trust, that life is for my good. And if this is what's popped up, I got to find out. I got to find out. And that motivates me. And that brings me forth to take that next step. And so that's it. So then you step into courage. So you step into courage. And then from there into wonder. Because what I've noticed is when I have had the courage to take that next step that didn't seem logical to me at all, but absolutely arose, I think I'm going to turn me off on that, okay? I don't know what's going on. That's what got me here. That's what got me to some of the most extraordinary places in my life that I would have never anticipated, never thought were coming. But as I have watched my life unfold, I have come to realize that this is where the true magic is. You know, one of the things in our movement that I am thinking a lot about these days is to the extraordinary extent in which we underestimate the power of our consciousness. That we are constantly thinking we got to do something to get this thing done before we get our consciousness straight. We take action too quickly and miss the opportunity for something that could be extraordinary. And it's belittled. It's called magical thinking. And yet I told you guys the story about, that was in the American Medical Journal, about the guy with the oranges, right? His magical thinking saved his life, then didn't, because he changed his mind. and then it saved his life, and then it didn't because he changed his mind again. It saved his life, and then it didn't, and it killed him. All through the power of his mind. And here's this doctor who's writing about this in the American Medical Journal. And so we know that it's there, and yet we don't trust it. We don't breathe into it, because it takes that kind of courage to stand up to what's truly possible. But that's what we teach here. We teach here how to have an intention, create an affirmation that you can hold present for yourself, soften and be curious, then the courage to take the action on what's popped up, and then receive the beauty of what you've created. These are simple steps that have taken me a lifetime, and I still haven't mastered them. So I'm not up here saying I've mastered this stuff. I'm saying you get results as you get better at it. You don't got to wait to be a master to get results from the power of your consciousness and being willing to step through it like that. This is what's possible for each and anybody if you're willing to practice, willing to get into class. And you want to set a strong intention, get into the visioning class. That will absolutely support you having an intention that you can carry the rest of this year with you. That's how this stuff works. Each class, the people in Power Decision are learning how to get to make decisions that are in line with their true intention. Because that's how this stuff works. And I, for one, am just in heaven on how it's worked for me. So that's why I know how it can work for you. I love you. Thank you so much.